Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're back once again with episode 17 of the 1973 podcast. I'm back with the best tag team in the podcasting business. Ed, Tom, what's going on?
What's going on, guys?
What's happening?
The whole effing podcast. Is that copyright infringement? Patent pending?
Yes.
So before we get rolling and everything, I want to just give a shout out. I want to bring a guest on for a minute. And I want to say, here's my daughter had a big weekend this weekend with the Bruins team. They won the Battle of Boston, wicked proud, did a lot of work this weekend, a lot of road miles. So it was all worth it. So Ken, you want to say anything? That's right. So get out of here. Thanks,
Good job,
Ken.
Kennedy.
Good job, Kennedy. Congratulations.
So yeah, I just want to get that in there. You know, the kids are shy. When they want to be on, but when you put on my camera, they freeze. So let's kind of start this week with what we usually do. Ed, what do you got for an email this week?
All right, we're dipping way into my neck of the country here. Deep into the mailbag here.
Well, make sure you say who it's from and where they're from.
All right, well, she doesn't tell us where she's from, but we all know where she's from. This is from Sharon Collins, and she says, explain why Drew Brees is more awesome than Tom Brady. Thomas, I'm going to let you take the lead on this. I mean, I'm going to come in hard on the end.
I've got a book report here. All right. Now, based just on stats, they're pretty even. Stats.
What?
Brady played 22 seasons. Brees played 20. Drew Brees has a 67.7% completion percentage, 80,358 yards. Brady has 64% completed, 89,214 yards. Now you go touchdowns. Brady played 2 more seasons. He's got 649 throwing, and Brees has 571. Now the interceptions, Drew Brees has 243. Brady has 212. Now where it gets a little bit, Brees had 21 fumbles and Brady had 35. So that's the biggest. That's where Brees has the advantage right there. Other than that, I think when you're that close, you go with Super Bowl rings. And I don't want to be a homer, but I mean 7 rings, 6 in New England, I believe.
Hey, be careful how you say that.
So I'm going to hit you with this. I'm just going to hit you with the regular season wins. Let's see. There's 251, 80 to 82 for Brady, and Drew Brees was 127 and 114. Postseason 35 and 13 for Brady, and then 9 and 9 in the postseason for Drew Brees. And let's see. Oh yeah, that's right. Three times league MVP for Tom Brady and 0 for Drew Brees. There was 7 Super Bowl wins and to 1. Now, since I live in the area down here, I must kind of like explain myself here a little bit more. So I will say this. Drew Brees is huge down here in the community. He came in post Katrina, and he put his money where his mouth was. He lived in the magazine district, in the garden district, and he kept his family in there. He didn't move. He still lives there, and he's a big fixture of the community. And really, he's really a great person. He puts his money where his mouth is. I'm still gonna, even though I live in the South, I'm still gonna have to go with Mr. Brady, because the thing about it is it's 7 Super Bowl wins, and I do believe that Drew Brees got shafted out of 2 more due to the fact that there was some we didn't see that call. Sorry about that. Did that just happen? Just saying it, so anyway, I'm going to have to still go with Brady, but I will say head to head in the Superdome, I was there on the Monday night when Brady played Drew Brees. And I will say that the Saints fans were extremely gracious. That's after Drew Brees and the Saints put an ass whooping on the Patriots on Monday night. So that's all I got to say. Sharon, thank you so much. I'll be seeing you guys soon.
I will say, Brees was a ton better in college at Purdue. His stats in college just blew Brady's away. Now, granted, Brady was kind of 1 or 2 years he was in like a platoon with I think it was Drew Henson, but
Yeah, it was Drew Henson. Yeah.
but yeah, I like them both. So they're, to me, I mean, I'm a homer, so Brady, but Drew Brees, there's a lot. They're right there, neck and neck in comparison.
Well,
I think that they both meant a lot to both of those cities at their times that they both played. They really, I mean, Brady bringing the Patriots, to what they became, 10 Super Bowls basically in 20 years. I mean, that's saying a lot. And then, I mean, living here and only, moving here 2.5 years after Katrina. I mean, I don't think that like pictures can actually prove how devastated this area was and really how much Drew Brees and the Saints really meant to the area. So, I mean, I still give, Drew Brees honorable mention, but Brady's still number one because of the Super Bowl rings. That's all.
So my take on the whole thing is we lived in a time where, parity in sports is huge. And the last thing that any league wants, as much as they'd like to spin it into a Cinderella story or all these other things, is they hate when the same team wins all the time because the way the leagues are set up with parity. And so it's nice to see that, especially if it's your team, unlike my team. But, it is what it is, and that's the way it's structured, and that's the world we live in with a lot of.
Is he still driving the minivan from 1987? I have questions.
So, as far as the yin and yang with Brady and Breeze, you guys ready to move on for that? And we'll
Yeah, we're good to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay,
Sharon.
Darren, thanks for the question.
Yeah, I just want to stop for 1 second before we move on, and I want to say the YouTube page and the Facebook page is absolutely blown up over the last week and a half. It's unbelievable. I just want to say how thankful, we are for all that. I mean, I don't know who's watching, but keep watching. We got to be doing something right. We're entertaining a little bit, maybe making you laugh. I mean, I've heard that people listen to it religiously, like on their way to work. They'll put it like on their phone and listen to it that way. I mean, we try to keep it to, like around a half an hour so nobody gets bored, or we don't get long-winded with a lot of the subject, but sometimes we do, depending on how interested we are in certain subjects. But, I just want to say.
It's also budget constraints too.
Yeah, budget constraints, but that could
We
change.
run a tight budget around here.
It's like
Couch fishing 101.
it's like we're clipping coupons.
That's right.
So I just want to say thanks. And with that being said, speaking of thanks, let's talk Stanley Cup. Wow, what a ride! That last game with Kachuk. We're recording this right after. Is it game 4? Yeah, and the end of that game. Wow, thoughts on the end of that game? They sat Kachuk for a little bit in the third period. I don't know why. But when he was out at the end, woohoo, all hell broke loose at the end of that game. And he had a chance to put one in at the end.
They were saying the shoulder is all messed up, and they were saying for a good chunk of that game he was only holding a stick with one hand.
Ed, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about it is that I'll just say it this way: instead of having cake bread Cabernet last night, I had NyQuil Green Death flavor last night. So I taped the game last night, so I watched it this morning, and of course, the miracles of modern science. It cut me off with about 2.5 minutes left in the game. So I did not see the shenanigans at the end, but I did watch the rest of the game, and it did look like Kachuk. He was playing injured. He was playing hurt. There was that one point in the game where they pressed him up against the glass, and he didn't really push back all that hard. And I mean, that hit. I mean, look, shoulder injuries. that neck injury. That is a very painful thing to play through. So these guys are playing. I mean, these guys skate at 21 miles, 22 miles an hour, flat out, and these dudes are not tiny humans. So,
Sorry, Ed.
nah, you're good, man. Let it rip, man.
Now I got one question. Does Alex Petrangelo, whatever his name is, should he get suspended for that at the end because he came out of the box? If you're going to be fair, they suspended Darnell Nurse earlier in the playoffs. So, I mean, if you're going to rule by the letter of the law, he should be suspended.
Yeah,
it's the Stanley Cup.
It all comes down to they're going back to Vegas. They get a chance to win on home ice, which kind of doesn't happen too often. It seems like every Stanley Cup winner is on opposing ice most of the time. But yeah, it's a good talking point. It's nice to throw out there. I mean, I'd like to see some emails, maybe your thoughts on that. Maybe it's something we can toss around. But thoughts on that, like Tom, what would you do?
Oh, on whether he should be suspended? I'd suspend him. I hate to even if it is the playoffs, if you got the rules are the rules, and you shouldn't change the rules for whether it's in the first game of the season or if it's the game 7 of the Stanley Cup. But I mean, you'd like to see all the best players on the ice to decide it. But when something happens like that and you've already set a precedent, you should stick to it.
What do you think, Ed?
I mean, look, here's the deal. I mean, like the NHL is really starting to turn into the NFL, like this ticky-tack stuff. This is the NHL, you know? And the thing about it is a tough and violent game. And the thing about it is that that's how they play the game. And look, the thing about it is that, you know, I mean, we saw today that the Quebec majors, they just came down with a big edict from the big ivory tower saying that they're not going to allow fighting anymore. I mean, it is one of the few games that is like left that is a hard game. It's a man's game, you know? I mean, look, you got to put your big boy pants on when you step out on the ice, period. Like, I'm not the biggest human being known to mankind, but dude, it's Stanley Cup. I mean, you know, and it keeps the stick penalties down. It keeps that cheap stuff down. You know, I mean, you know, because the referees certainly don't see everything. You know, and that's my take, man. I think that it's getting far too soft. You know, take a line from you guys up there. It looks like they're really pandering to the pink hats, if you will. You know,
well,
the bandwagon fans.
The thing that I like to see, and I think I brought this up either the last episode or the episode before that, I'd like to see the NHL get back to the bigger teams rather than the smaller teams. I think it just makes it more old school, if that's probably the easiest way I can put it. If you're going to take out the enforcers and things like that, make them be big. You know, I want to see bigger players. Like Vegas is not intimidated by, and it's so surprising, the teams that they rolled through and beat. And Vegas just, it looks like they're on the cusp of doing something awesome, and they're not falling for a lot of the BS that, you know, the Panthers try to, you know, if they're losing at the end of the game, they try to set the tone for the next game. I like that a lot. It's like, you're not going to get a free pass with us, even though if you beat us, you're going to know that you played us. And I love that. I want to see that identity come back to the league with a lot of the teams, you know, like not to push my Flyers, America's team, but the Philly flu needs to come back. You watch all these Flyers documentaries, and they always talk about when you went over that bridge, you had the Philly flu. Guys were getting nervous. There was an aura when you played in the old Spectrum, and I missed that.
Yep.
I mean, I had a chance to go to a couple games there as a kid, and it was like believe me, I'm not inflating this because it's that team. The vibration in that building was like, it was like before they were called the Legion of Doom, that line. Like, I saw them in the late 80s. I mean, that building used to have like an evil kind of like aura to it. Like, those people aren't right in the head. There's just something about it. And they're my people. We've been there. We've seen it. We've seen it at the ECW arena. It's a whole different, that city of brotherly love thing. It's the polar opposite. It's like, if you're an opposing team coming in there, or you're, you know, I've heard it from people that are Eagles fans, if that are Steelers fans that go there, they're getting stuff thrown on them. You know, the famous story when we went to the Stanley Cup and that kid's trying to take a piss and the two guys are on both sides of him yelling in his ear, "You got a lot of balls wearing that jersey in here." They're crazy. The guy punching the sheetrock in the roof of the Wells Fargo Center. It's crazy. I love it. I mean, I want to see it come back. I hope that the whole NHL has that. But what I will say about Vegas is the vibe that they have. If you go see a game there, you will love the presentation. It's Las Vegas from start to finish. And I wish more teams were like that. I wish they had that presentation that will make you a fan, even if it's your first time ever going to a game because your boss gave you tickets or something like that. Every team should have that vibe that they're trying to turn you into a lifetime hockey fan, and that's lost. Go ahead, guys.
Hey, I got one. This is the thing that drives me crazy. This happened in the first period, right? And Lebrowski had a nice big hit, and the announcers are apologizing for a clean hit. Like, that's disgusting. I mean, I'm gonna go deep into the mailbag of hockey movies and go, Morris, you make me sick when you speak when you talk like that. I mean, you're apologizing for a clean hit. Like, it's a clean hit. Stop. Like, just
Yeah.
stop it. Like, there's no need for that. I mean, like, just stop. They're dissecting all this ticky tack stuff, like in like with penalties and everything like that, and it just looks. And there was a play last night that there was a play that what happened in the corner. I think it was in I want to say in the second period, and a stick got knocked out, and then they called the penalty on the Panthers right after on it, and it wasn't even a penalty. And I mean, it just kind of seems like that there's a little heavyweight going towards Vegas. Just saying.
Tom, and anything to add?
I don't know if you guys saw the story, but I'd love to be a fly in the wall for this summer. Brady Tkachuk is getting married, and Matthew Tkachuk is the best man, and Mark Stone is the groomsman.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think that's somebody's going to have bragging rights there. And
Yeah. What did you think about the fans in Florida throwing all that junk on the ice, like as all that stuff was happening?
oh, that's garbage. That's to me, it's garbage, and unfortunately, you're seeing it more and more in sports. I mean, as I can't say anything bad because I've seen it in Boston a few years ago, and it's just I don't know. The fans are poor losers, and I mean, I don't
No,
know.
they're pissed because they paid $100 for parking.
That's where I was going. They actually charged the Florida Panthers fans $100 to park for that
Wow.
game. So I think that with that high ticket price, I think it's almost like the parents with the hockey. You're paying a huge amount of money. It's not $100 for baseball. It's like $3,000. And when there's not a return on that money, I mean that's tough. I mean that's a big thing. You're dumping $3,000 into something that your kid's gonna play, and you want to see a little return on it. And when this some political stuff or stuff not going your way, that's crazy. I mean, and that's why they lose their shit when they when they travel all the way to Timbuktu and get the shit kicked out of you, and your kid's the grocery stick on the bench playing every third or fourth time out there, going through the lines or whatever. It sucks, but
Yeah.
it is a thing. Hockey is one of those sports you love it, and if you don't understand it, you'll never understand it. It's one
Just
of the.
sorry. Just circling back to the second period, actually focusing back to the game. Like, I mean, Vegas was definitely outplaying Florida most of the game. I mean, and there were a couple of times where Vegas just was flat out outskating Florida, and on one of the goals, there were 5 guys just standing there, not even taking a body or nothing. To kind of what I'm trying to do is just bring it back to the game. I mean, because we can sit here and grandstand all day we want, and you're 100% right, man. I can't even imagine the windshield time and the money that you guys spend being hockey parents. So
True. And when you coach on top of it and there's no discount, that sucks too. But go ahead, so with that being said, I'm going to have to say that Hill might get some heavy consideration for Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
He's made some really, really highlight reel saves at key times too. Momentum changers too, which you don't see that too often anymore. But that the stick across the crease on Cousins was fantastic. He stuck the leg pad out blindly and stopped Tkachuk at the end. So it'll be interesting. Next week we'll probably wrap up the hockey season talking about it, and then probably segue into some other things. And with that being said, Tom, what do you got for fantasy picks this week?
Fantasy picks. All right. For baseball, I actually hit the jackpot last week. Mookie Betts was unbelievable, had 28 points, and my pitcher Shane McClanahan had 25 points and 2 wins. So this week, I'm going to go with pitcher Steven Strider from Atlanta. He's got 2 games this week against Detroit and Colorado. He should rack up the strikeouts for anyone that has them. And for my hitter of the week, I'm going with from the Tampa Bay Rays, Wander Franco. Got 7 games. He's playing Oakland and San Diego. I think should rack up at least a couple homers and probably get somewhere between 15 to 20 points.
Very good. Very good. Pretty spot on for consistency with the picks, Tom. That's good.
Getting
So
there.
That's why he is the professor.
the professor, the Gordon Soley of the podcast.
I
That
give
he
credit
is.
to my statistician back here.
Is it PK Subban? Is that your statistician? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna transition over to we're gonna start getting back in the habit of talking a little bit of pro wrestling going forward. And we talked about Dark Side of the Ring last week with Chris Candido, and this week we're gonna talk about one of my favorites as a kid, Magnum TA. Now, let me give you my 2 cents on the Magnum thing. When I was a kid and TBS was blowing up, I was always an NWA guy. Watched everything, but I was always an NWA guy. Ed can attest to that.
And you can verify me too, sir.
Yeah. So the thing with Magnum TA with me was if you weren't there at the time to witness, he was almost had a Goldberg type presentation to him. Not that he was big, but he was like a chick magnet. He had like a little bit of everything. Like the guys liked him because he was tough, but he would beat everybody really quick. His matches were like 8 seconds, 12 seconds, under 20 seconds. The belly to belly squash, everything. His presentation and the way that they presented his character was really badass for that time. When he had that accident, I had a chance to go to the Crockett Cup in Baltimore in '87. And still to this day, I can remember when they brought him out, the crowd was it was so weird how emotionally the crowd was involved in his being there, because nobody knew he was there. And that was the first time everybody had seen him walk again. And we came out and hugged Nikita and Dusty, and they showed it in the Dark Side of the Ring. It was absolutely like awe-inspiring. And I was probably 14 at the time, 13, 14, and it was amazing to see. And it's one of my fondest memories of one of the things that I got to see wrestling wise. So guys, give me your thoughts on the episode and thoughts on Magnum TA in general.
Ed, you can go.
I'm going to have to say is that, I really was kind of like a 51-49 guy, growing up. I mean, because TBS was on, and I remember, we were a little bit late in the hometown that I grew up on getting cable. So I didn't get the TBS until about a year, probably after, Magnum TA starting to catch on and that type of thing. But I remember watching him and him and Nikita just, and to see like what they did in the Dark Side of the Ring thing, and to hear that backstory on, when they did the interview with Magnum TA in the hospital room, and then they had Nikita on the front cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated and saying, I cried for Magnum TA. I mean, like, because Nikita was just, he had that kind of, iron sheet kind of man. He was so awesome. And then to see Magnum TA, go out there, and like how he wrestled. It's hard for people to understand nowadays that it was, this was before the internet. This was
super kayfabe. Super kayfabe.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
These guys, the thing that's lost in wrestling today is I don't want to go and see an event live and be bigger than the guys that are wrestling. These guys were men. These were guys that couldn't hold 9-to-5 jobs. These were, unhinged individuals, some of them. Bruiser Brody wasn't going to be working at your checkout counter at Lowe's. You know what I mean? It's Stan Hansen, guys like that. That's what's lost on pro wrestling these days.
Ric Flair talks about, he's like, we used to do 4,000 miles a week. Think about that. These dudes are spending 4,000 miles in a car in a week to travel and hit territories. It wasn't anything like what AEW is now and what WWE is now. Not even close. Because if you didn't see it at 6:05 on TBS, it was gone.
Yeah,
you didn't see it.
Yeah,
that was it. So and to see and I remember them talking about the accident on TBS, and it was like, and you could feel the energy kind of come out of that broadcast. So it was definitely different. Thomas.
Oh, I love the episode itself. the stories on it. I love that backstage, not backstage, but some of the behind the scenes stuff that, I mean, that's why I loved the shoot videos and stuff. But the story with Buzz Sawyer had me laughing, where he tells him that it's cost 20 grand to train to get a wrestling license. He took the money and ran, and Magnum TA followed him to Oregon and ended up training him for 2 hours before Magnum TA had his first match. So he only had like 2 hours of training before he actually wrestled his first match.
Yeah,
that shows you how fast he picked it up. I mean,
yeah, unbelievable. And what an his look to Tom Selleck was like spot on with the the Magnum TA instead of the Magnum TPI thing was fantastic. I mean, who they said who came up with that gimmick?
Andre.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep. So yeah, there you go. Credit to Andre for coming up with that one, because it changed his whole presentation of his gimmick. I mean, yeah. I love how when they said when he first came out, they were trying him different things, and Dusty was the one that said, just get the leather jacket and the motorcycle and go with something like that. Stop messing around with these other goofy gimmicks. But we could talk about that episode for a while too, but we got about 7 minutes left before we kind of wind everything down. Do you want to tie in that episode with anything, Tom, before we move on?
No, that was all I was going to say. I love the kayfabe where they said that they had to sneak the wrestlers and the bad guys into the hospital to see them. That was another funny thing I saw. But
yeah, that Starrcade was it 87, the one that Ronnie Garvin lost the Flair, the Flair lost, yeah. And then he got it back from Garvin. I was assuming all this time that was going to be Magnum TA's little run there.
You do the what if game there. If he had stayed healthy and never had that happen, how big he would have been, and whether or not at that time Vince was throwing out the money like crazy. Do you think he would have gone to the WWE?
I don't know. He had a strong look. I mean, and he was he had one of those, like I said, those rare Barry Windham kind of things. Like the guys liked him as a good guy because they were tough, but the girls could get behind him too. You know what I mean? So that's rare. You don't get that too often, where you get that rugged dude that the guys are cheering for, and the girlfriends or the wives can get behind too. And like I said, these were men. These are grown ass adult men. These are big dudes. And to see Magnum TA on the Segway now, that's kind of a little heartbreaking too. But it's good. Me and Tom had seen him a couple times live, and he's good to me.
I've got my picture with him.
Yeah, he's very enjoyable to, and he seems like very fond of the fans too. So, with that being said, we're gonna move on to shout outs and album pick of the week. Tom, what do you want to do? Shout outs or pick of the week?
I'll do the pick of the week quick.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going with Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. Came out in '86, and a few things I thought were interesting were some of the songs the guys had started writing before the band actually had formed, and they ended up finishing it when they formed. Like Duff McKagan wrote "It's So Easy," and Izzy Stradling wrote "Anything Goes." And another interesting thing was I didn't know that Tracy Guns was originally one of the founders of the band. And
yeah, from LA Guns.
I never realized that.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, this thing is loaded with good songs. And Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, Mr. Brownstone, Sweet Child of Mine. It's just awesome album.
It's tough when you get a debut album that good. You can never kind of, do anything that's as equal to it. You know what I mean? That's the tough thing. I don't think they ever, as popular as they were, I don't think they ever even came close to touching the popularity of or the quality of that album. I think the thing that made that album so big was they were anti whatever was going on as far as glam at the time. So they were different. It was like more of that sleazy kind of Sunset Strip kind of like what Motley Crue kind of had in the beginning, but Guns N' Roses kind of had their own spin on that. But I mean, they talk about all kinds of funky stuff in that first album with the lyrics and everything. So Ed, thoughts on that album?
I mean, great album, and I mean, how can you not like Welcome to the Jungle? I mean, that it's I mean, now to piggyback on what you just said, I mean, if you listen to Rocket Queen, that speaks on what you just said. Very, there's a certain part of that song that is a certain particular person's girlfriend having some things happen
Yeah,
in the booth with Axel.
There's a story about that. That's in the sound booth, I guess, when they recorded that. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's stories like that with a lot of, these bands and stuff like that, which surprises me with all this Me Too movement that's coming out, that a lot of these people aren't getting pinched for underage stuff that went on way back in the day. But that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah. So before we wrap up this week's episode, I'm gonna throw it to these guys for any shout outs that you want to throw out this week.
I want to shout out mainly whoever the fans, because I mean we blew up this week on the YouTube channel. I don't know who it is, but thank you very much and keep it up, please.
Ed, what do you got? You got anything?
Well, I'm gonna say I got a couple things. Number one, number 6, glad you're doing better. Glad everything came out okay. Number 2, it is Vince Lombardi's 110th birthday today. Just win, baby. And then number 3, last but not least, Sharon, thank you very much. You are our first female male correspondence that we've ever received. So we really do appreciate that. Thank you. Ladies, send us the info. We'll read them.
I will say that she's the first one we've read on the air, because you can't talk about some of the stuff that you get. So yeah, everything gets everything gets
keep it PG-13.
Yeah. But one of these weeks we're gonna have, when we add those special episodes where we have a 4th host. So I'd like to get a female opinion one of these weeks. It'd be kind of cool to bounce some stuff off. Especially depending on what subjects we're talking about that week or at that time of the season, because this is definitely a seasonal podcast. We'll be talking about different things within the half an hour, depending on what sports season is going on. But we'll try to sprinkle a little pro wrestling in there just to wet the whistle. And football season's coming. I know college football season's coming. These guys love their college football, so be all over that stuff. And
Portuguese Phantom.
First mention, gotta throw it in there.
That's right.
So with that being said, guys, we're gonna wind it up and finish this one off. You got anything before we go?
Nope.
Thanks everybody.
All right, so we'll see you next week, and everybody keep watching this stuff, and we'll keep giving you the stuff.
See ya.
Later, everyone.
Later.